Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt stuck? Like you're spinning your wheels in life, working harder but not getting further. I want to tell you a story. There's a man named James. For 15 years, he worked the same job, lived in the same town, followed the same routine. He told himself, this is just the way life is. He believed success was reserved for people with better backgrounds, better luck, or better timing. Then one day, something shifted, not in his situation, but in his mindset. And that changed everything. Today, James owns a company, employs 40 people, and mentors young leaders. Not because he learned some secret tactic, but because he learned a new way to think. Mindset. That's the foundation. That's the beginning. That's where transformation starts. Let's break this down. Your mindset isn't just how you think. It's how you see. It's the silent filter that shapes every interpretation, every decision, every reaction you have. Two people can go through the same event and walk away with two completely different stories. One sees a failure, the other sees a lesson. One sees rejection, the other sees redirection. The difference isn't in the event, it's in the mindset. Think of mindset as the software running in the background of your brain. If that software is filled with limitations, fear and assumptions about who you are and what you can't do, then no matter how good the hardware is, your skills, your talents, your opportunities, it will crash. But if the software is designed to adapt, to learn, to grow, then even setbacks become fuel. Even losses can lead to wins. Carol Dweck, a psychologist at Stanford, devoted decades of her life studying this very thing, and what she found was so simple, it's almost disarming. She identified two dominant kinds of mindset: fixed and growth. A fixed mindset says, this is just the way I am. I'm either good at this or I'm not. It sounds innocent enough, but it shows up everywhere. In the student who avoids hard subjects, in the employee who plays it safe, in the adult who stops trying to learn new things. Underneath that mindset is a fear. If I try and fail, it means I'm not enough. So better not to try. But then there's the growth mindset. It says, I can learn, I can improve. I may not be there yet, but I'm on my way. This kind of thinking unlocks possibility. It shifts effort from being something to fear to something to value. It embraces struggle as part of the process. Now let me be clear. This isn't just a nice philosophy. The research backs it. In one study, students were taught about growth mindset principles. They learned that intelligence is not fixed, and that their brains could grow stronger through challenge. What happened? These students started taking more academic risks, showing greater persistence, and achieving higher grades. Same kids, same schools, different mindsets. You see this outside the classroom too. Athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, the ones who succeed over time aren't always the most talented. They're the ones who believe they can grow. They're the ones who fail but don't label themselves as failures. They're the ones who keep going. Take someone like Michael Jordan. Cut from his high school basketball team. Most people would have taken that as a sign they weren't meant for the sport. But he didn't see it as proof of inadequacy. He saw it as a challenge to rise to. That wasn't confidence. That was mindset. I've met people who believe they're just not creative. And yet, when asked to solve problems in their own lives, finding a way to feed a family on a tight budget, juggling 3 jobs, fixing a broken car with duct tape and willpower, they show enormous creativity. The problem isn't ability, it's perspective. Because here's the truth. We don't live the life we want. We live the life we believe we deserve. If you think success isn't meant for people like you, you'll find ways to sabotage it. If you think love always ends in pain, you'll pull away from the people who care. If you think you're not worthy of more, you'll stay where it's safe, even if it's unfulfilling. Your reality begins in your mind. That voice you hear every day, it matters. It decides what you pursue, what you avoid, what you tolerate, and what you fight for. So ask yourself, what story are you telling? What limits are you accepting? What potential are you silencing? Because the good news is this: your mindset is not fixed. It can be rewritten, and when it is, everything else follows. Imagine a woman named Lila. She's in her late 30s, working a steady corporate job. On paper, everything looks fine, but inside there's this quiet yearning, a whisper of a dream she's carried for years, Opening a bakery. She doesn't talk about it often. She barely lets herself think about it. Because every time she does, another voice answers back. Louder and sharper. You're too old to start over. You've got bills. You've got responsibilities. You don't even know where to begin. And perhaps the harshest one of all, who do you think you are? That voice is familiar, isn't it? We all have it. It shows up when we're on the edge of something meaningful. It's not logic. It's not strategy. It's belief, disguised as truth. And here's the part most people miss. That voice doesn't describe your reality. It creates it. Because belief is not passive. Belief drives behavior. Think about it. If you believe failure is fatal, you will avoid anything that carries risk. If you believe rejection is proof that you don't belong, you'll shrink yourself to stay comfortable. And if you believe your worth is tied to your current job title, your salary, your social status, you'll cling to what's familiar, even when it makes you miserable. That's why two people can be in the same situation and respond completely differently. One person gets passed over for a promotion and spirals into self-doubt. Another takes it as a signal to build something of their own. It's not the circumstance, it's the belief behind it. Belief is the hidden script that dictates what we allow ourselves to pursue. It tells us what's possible and what's off limits. And it's so embedded in how we think, we rarely even question it. But what happens when we do? Lila eventually did something courageous. Not flashy, not dramatic. She simply started to ask a different question. Instead of listening to that voice that said, "You can't," she asked, "What if I could? What if failure isn't final? What if it's just the price of trying? What if I don't need to be perfect? I just need to begin." She didn't quit her job overnight. She didn't mortgage her house. She started small. A few weekend baking gigs, selling cupcakes at local farmers markets, late nights after work, perfecting recipes in her tiny apartment kitchen. And it wasn't smooth. Her first big event, she forgot half the ingredients. Her second, she made a loss. But here's what changed. Her belief. She started to see herself as someone who could learn, someone who could figure things out, someone who was capable of building something new. Fast forward a couple of years. Lila now owns a bakery in her hometown. It's not a franchise. It's not a viral Instagram sensation. But she sells out almost every weekend. Locals line up for her sourdough. Kids race in after school for her cinnamon buns. She wakes up early, works hard, and most importantly, she wakes up fulfilled. Because she didn't just build a business, she rebuilt her belief in herself. That's what most people don't realize. When you change what you believe, you don't just unlock new actions, you unlock a new identity. You start showing up differently. You start making different choices. You say yes to things you once thought were beyond you. You stay standing in moments where you would have crumbled before. Belief isn't about blind optimism. It's about possibility. It's about giving yourself permission to try, to fail, to grow, and to keep going. Because once you shift your belief, your behavior naturally follows. And when your behavior changes consistently enough, your life starts to take a new shape. It's never really about talent, or luck, or timing. It's about belief. And belief, unlike luck or talent, is something you can choose. Here's a truth we often forget. Growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. Comfort might feel safe. It might feel good, but nothing remarkable is ever born from it. Because comfort is where we maintain, not where we expand. Think of your body. Muscles don't grow when they're at rest. They grow when they're pushed, when they're stretched to the edge of their capacity, and then asked to do just a little bit more. That soreness you feel after a hard workout, that's the cost of progress. That's what transformation feels like in real time. Your mind works the same way. Growth, mentally and emotionally, requires friction. It requires tension. It requires a moment where what you know no longer serves you, and you're forced to reach for something greater. That's what challenge is, not a punishment. An invitation, an opportunity, a turning point. But here's where most people get stuck. They think challenge means something is wrong. That pain or failure means they've taken a wrong turn. That discomfort is a sign to stop. So they retreat. They play smaller. They avoid risk. And in doing so, they miss the moment that could have changed them. Think about it. When a relationship ends, it's easy to spiral into questions like, what's wrong with me? Or why does this always happen? But that moment, painful as it is can also be the beginning of something powerful. It can be the first time you learn what boundaries really are, or how to love yourself without someone else's validation, or how to break old patterns you didn't even know you had. That pain is a mirror, and if you're brave enough to look into it, you start to see more clearly who you are and who you could be. When you're passed over for a promotion, it's easy to shut down, to think, I'm not good enough, or they just don't see my value. But challenge invites a different response. One that says, what can I learn from this? Maybe you need to develop a new skill. Maybe you need to speak up more. Maybe you're being called to lead somewhere else entirely. The situation may be out of your control, but your response is not. And that response, that mindset, is what defines the outcome. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. 27 years. Most people would have come out angry, bitter, and defeated. But he didn't. He came out calm, wise, and full of grace. And when asked how he survived, he didn't say he won. He said, I never lose. I either win or learn. That's not blind positivity. That's a mindset rooted in growth. A mindset that sees challenge not as a threat, but as the raw material for transformation. We admire people who overcome great odds, but we forget that their strength was built in those very moments we're so quick to avoid. Resilience isn't born in ease, it's forged in adversity. Courage doesn't appear when everything's going your way. It shows up when the road gets hard and you choose to keep going anyway. So if you're in a season of challenge, if life feels heavy or unclear, don't assume you're off course. You might be exactly where you need to be. Growth doesn't ask us to be perfect. It asked us to stay present, to face what's in front of us, to believe there's something worth becoming on the other side. Because the truth is, we don't grow because life is easy. We grow because life calls us to rise, and we decide to end. Let's be clear. Changing your mindset doesn't mean pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's not about blind optimism or slapping a smile on when things hurt. It's about choosing where to focus your attention. It's about deciding which version of reality you're going to invest in. Because there will always be something to worry about. There will always be something that's missing, something that's uncertain, something that didn't go the way you planned. And at the exact same time, there will always be something to be thankful for, something to hold on to, something to celebrate, even if it's small. The question is, which one are you feeding? Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools we have, not because it changes what's happening, but because it changes how we experience it. It pulls us out of the noise. It grounds us in what's real. It reminds us that even in moments of chaos, there's something steady underneath. A breath you didn't have to earn. A friend who checked. A chance to try again. In one study at Harvard, participants were asked to write down 3 things they were grateful for every day. For 21 days. That's it. No major life changes. No dramatic therapy sessions. Just 3 small reflections each day. What happened next was remarkable. People reported feeling more optimistic, more energetic, and less stressed. Not just during the experiment, but months after it ended. Their brains had been rewired to look for good. And when you train your mind to look for good, you start to see it more often. And when you start to see it, you begin to believe in it. And when you believe in it, you start to build more of it. That's the power of gratitude. It shifts the baseline. It takes you from everything is going wrong to not everything is going right. But look how far I've come. And that shift creates space. Space to breathe. Space to move. Space to dream. Now combine that with vision. Now you've got something powerful. Gratitude keeps your feet on the ground. Vision gives you something to walk toward. Together they fuel momentum. They remind you that today matters, but so does tomorrow. They keep you rooted in what's real, while still reaching for what's possible. Vision doesn't mean having your entire life mapped out. It doesn't mean having every detail figured out, or knowing exactly how you're going to get there. It just means having a sense of who you want to become. Not what job you want, or what car you'll drive. Who you want to be. What kind of presence you want to bring into the room. What kind of energy you want to give to the people you love. What kind of legacy you want to leave behind. You don't need to know every step. You just need to believe the next step matters. And it does. Because one small step in the direction of your vision, grounded in gratitude, can change your trajectory entirely. Not because it makes everything easy, but because it gives your struggle meaning. When you live with both gratitude and vision, you stop reacting to life,
and start responding to it. You stop waiting for things to get better and start becoming someone who brings better into the world. And over time, that shift in mindset becomes your foundation. It becomes your fuel. It becomes your story, one you're proud to tell, one you're still writing, one small, grateful, intentional step at a time. So I'll ask you again, are you stuck because the world won't change, or because your mindset hasn't? It's a question that's easy to shrug off. It sounds simple, even obvious, but it's one of the most important questions you can ever ask yourself. Because if the answer is the world, then you're waiting on something you can't control. If the answer is your mindset, then everything shifts. Suddenly the power is in your hands. We don't get to decide what happens to us. We don't control the economy, or the weather, or how other people treat us. But we do control how we think, how we interpret, how we respond. And the stories we tell ourselves in those quiet moments, those stories shape our lives more than we realize. The moment you start seeing your thoughts, not as facts but as choices, is the moment you begin to reclaim your power. Because when you change your mindset, you change your choices. You stop reacting out of fear and start responding with intention. You stop playing small to stay safe and start stepping into who you're meant to be. And those choices, those seemingly small decisions about how you show up, become habits. The way you speak to yourself, the way you handle discomfort, the way you bounce back from setback. Day by day, those habits build momentum. And over time, those habits shape your outcomes. Suddenly, you're not where you were 6 months ago. You're not who you were, because the way you think changed. And with it, your life did too. That's the chain reaction. It doesn't start with the world bending in your favor. It starts with you thinking differently about your own place in it. The first step is rarely dramatic. It might not even be visible to anyone else. It's not about quitting your job or announcing your big dreams to the world. It's about choosing to see possibility where you used to see walls. It's about catching yourself in a spiral of doubt and asking, what if this is teaching me something, instead of why does this always happen to me? It's about believing, not in some vague future, but in your own ability to become the kind of person who can rise to meet it. And here's what happens when you do that. Your world begins to expand, not because the challenges disappear, but because you become bigger than. You stop seeing obstacles as roadblocks and start seeing them as resistance that strengthens you. You stop waiting for permission and start acting on purpose. And the people around you notice, because when one person rises, it gives others the courage to do the same. We don't need more people who have it all figured out. We need more people who are willing to think differently, to believe differently, to lead their own lives from a place of strength and purpose. That's what changes teams, families, communities, and eventually the world. So ask yourself, what story am I living? What mindset have I been clinging to that no longer serves me? What would shift if I just believed something new? Change your mind, and you change your life. Not overnight, not all at once, but moment by moment, choice by choice, thought by thought. And the best part, you can start today.